Hello, I'm Crystal Rose, the author of Falling Sky. I wanted to share why this book was important to me, the themes, my perspective as an author, why I decided to dip my toes in the water of fantasy after having written and published 10 sci fi romance books. I also want to give a warning that this video is full of spoilers, so if you're interested in reading this and haven't yet, please do that now and come back. But so my original inspiration for Falling Sky, I had a very vague image in my mind of a mate bond, and in order to feel that bond between two people, they would see like a light glowing between them, and how I just felt the concept would be so interesting if someone were pulled through a portal into a new world and they didn't know what they didn't know, and someone with nefarious motives could very easily lie to them and say, hey, a mate bond is just this warm glow between two people, and the other person would have no reason to not believe that. And so they go on believing this person is their mate. And it's not till later when they connect with their true mate that their connection is this bright, blinding light. And they're like, oh, this is my true mate. And it's also, to me, Lavana, the female main character of this book, is kind of a representation of what it's like to be an 18-year-old woman entering into the dating scene, maybe even younger, and you're basically in shark infested water, but you don't know. I'm talking about heterosexual women dating men who are predators, and a lot of them are predatory, but you don't know that. And you can be told that, but as a teenager or even an early 20-year-old, you think you know best, or you just want to experience this thing for yourself, and you don't know what you don't know. And that's a really scary situation, but you don't know how scary it is when you're in it. And it's not until after you've had a terrible relationship that you take a step back and you're like, I was in danger that entire time. And like those feelings that a lot of heterosexual women experience during that time is the emotions I wanted to convey with Lavana, as she's a human pulled into a portal, into a fantasy world, and she doesn't know what she doesn't know. And she's surrounded by these angelic people with white wings, blonde hair, just very knight in shining armor. And she has no reason to believe these people aren't telling her the truth. And when she's told someone's her mate, she doesn't have any reason to not believe that. And he is really cunning. He's able to convince her of a lot of things and has just enough evidence to back it up. Um, but at the end of the day, and also another point is, I really wanted to play on the concepts of light and dark, and how in my life, light hasn't always been good. Like when I've experienced trauma, being able to hide and shelter in darkness has been my safe place, and being in the light and an exposing vulnerable light was not safe. And I get annoyed with the concept of light and dark as it's portrayed in media, because that's not how it's portrayed, and darkness is always bad and light is always good, and I just don't think that's the case. And also, I think if I had darker skin, I would be kind of tired of that narrative. Like, I'm sure some people internalize that when that's not good either. It's just like white and light is not always good, and dark is not always bad. And I wanted to flip the script with this book, and hopefully that concept is successfully conveyed. But anyway, she's told that the Nocturians, who are elves that look like African American people, and there's character art. You can look it up on my Instagram, or it's in the book itself. Unfortunately, it's printed in black and white to keep the costs low, but you can find it on Instagram. Um, she's told the Nocturians are bad, and again, she doesn't have any reason not to believe that. And later on, she finds out, oh, these people are at war, but the White Angels are the bad guys, and they've been the bad guys for a while. And so, like, that's another concept and theme I wanted to convey in this book. Okay, and as for why I decided to dip my toe into the romantasy genre after being so firmly planted in the sci-fi genre, is mostly because when I thought of this concept of the mate bond and the light between them, I really tried to fit it in this like pigeonhole of sci-fi. I'm like, well, she can get abducted and it's just a race of aliens who have this mate bond. But like, the more I thought about it, the more it felt like fantasy. And in my mind, fantasy is more difficult than sci-fi. I don't know why I think that, or have thought that for a long time. And I just thought I wasn't good enough. And eventually, I just had to like put those limiting beliefs aside and say, just try it. Like, I've tried to fit this plot into a sci-fi genre and it wasn't working. You are good enough. Just go for it. And so that's what I did. And so I'm really proud of myself that I did do it. Not a lot of people have read it yet, so I can't tell you if it's like superb, but the reviews so far have been mostly good. But another big reason why I hadn't gone into fantasy before is because for me personally, I really struggle reading fantasy novels. If you read my books, you know my pacing is very fast. And I've been told my books are very bingeable, and I take that as a massive compliment. I don't like a lot of fluff. I don't like for things to be fleshed out. I don't like a lot of time wasted on the description of where they are, the people around them, if they're not directly involved with the plot. Like, it just feels like I'm wasting my time. And I don't know, it's just not my vibe. And there's millions of people where that is their vibe, and that's great. There's a reader for every genre. But for me personally, I struggle with fantasy because it's usually very fleshed out. It's very slow pacing. There's too many characters to keep track of, and the plot lines, there's too many plot lines and point POVs to also keep track of as well. And so I wrote this as a reader who doesn't like fantasy. I wrote this kind of as a gift for people who also don't like fantasy. Like, it's a fantasy book for non-fantasy readers. And one of the first ARC reviews I got for this book was someone mentioning how accessible this book felt. And I had never spoken to this person a day of my life. And for them to come on and say that meant the world to me, because that's exactly what I was going for. And so I'm still amazed that it came through, but that's who I wrote it for. Like, people who struggle with all the overlapping characters and plot lines and descriptions. This is for you. I wrote this for you. And that very first review, that person put that in writing, and I was just so floored. And I'm so really grateful that they expressed that caught on, that I was able to express that through the book. So that's also really important to me. There's nothing wrong with liking fantasy that's slower paced and fleshed out. I think that's amazing. It's just not for me, and that's okay. Right. Now, why should you read Falling Sky? You've heard me talk about it. You heard the description. I would say don't just go off of my opinion alone. Obviously, I'm the author. I'm going to plug my own book, but I am going to go ahead and play some of the reviews that the book has gotten, and hopefully those can help you decide if this is going to be the book for you. Remember, this is not high fantasy. The pacing is fast. I don't flesh things out. I don't apologize for that. And so if you like really fleshed out high fantasy books, you don't have to read this one. It's okay. And if you do, DNF it if you don't like it. Like, that's fine. But if you don't typically read fantasy, because of the reasons I listed. Give it a try. I've been told the cover is very pretty, and I agree. I do love this cover a whole lot. So anyway, here's the reviews. Thank you for listening, and I'll be back with another video sometime. I don't know yet, but sometime. Bye.